Ooka chaka, ooka, ooka, ooka chaka, ooka, ooka, ooka chaka, ooka, ooka, ooka chaka, ooka, ooka.
I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. Girl, you just don't realize what you do to me. When you hold me in your arms so tight, you let me know everything's alright. I'm hooked on a feeling, I'm high on believing that you're in love with me.
Welcome to week 10 of the Bill Neese's Coaches Show. I'm your host, Chip Hare. With us is Coach Bill Neese. And Coach, the Indians go down to Tippecanoe in what has turned into a new rivalry for the Indians and a very close game. The Indians pull it out in a tough one, 28-14. Certainly the score was a lot closer than what was on the board. A great win for us on the road, and to do it in a league fashion and the way we got it done, certainly had to feel good.
Yeah, it was a tough game. It was a good, hard-fought game. We thought we were in control for a lot of it, and then they hit us with a kickoff return, and that put them right back in the ball game. And then for the longest time, it was down, and then they started driving again, and we were fortunate enough to get a fumble. And right after that break, we came back and just hit a big play and kind of iced that thing. But there wasn't hardly any moments during that game that I wasn't sure that we had won the football game until I actually saw the zeros on the board.
You talked about the run back, because we get we drive the ball, and get the score. They kicked it back. It was almost reliving Lima all over again.
Yeah.
And actually the way the game went, therefore, probably about another 6 minutes after that, you kind of felt like that. But again, I think it shows growth from a team of where we were in week 2 to where we are in week 9.
Yeah,
we really fought through that.
I think it was, I said after the game, and I told everybody got extra dots on their helmet after or on our Monday meeting. I think that our punt team won the game for us. I don't know that we've ever had a situation where we punted the ball as many times as we did in the fourth quarter. Unfortunately, we went 2 3 and outs right in a row, and they sent 10 at us every single time, and we were able to, number one, handle the 10. And the important or unique thing about it is when they send 10 at us, they didn't account for our center. And our center went down the field, and old Cameron Deal had 2 great plays. One huge play that kept him on that side of the 50, and then the second play, he was right there and forced the guy to fair catch. And there was, if he would have been able to just juke Cameron, our guys were still back there blocking almost, so it was really hard for our coverage team to get down there. So I thought our punt team, our punt protection, and then later on when we got into the punts, and obviously Austin Burns, our punter.
He's been huge.
Did a great job, but to have a snapper go down there and do that and then make some plays is extraordinary.
Well, when Cameron came off the field the way after he made that big play there in the fourth quarter, my immediate thought was what we were talking about him in the coaches show just a couple weeks beforehand, when we were saying he's just that guy that continues just to make plays, isn't flashy, but gets it done.
Yeah, and whenever you don't account for somebody like that, that's huge. Those guys got to get down there and make that play then.
Indians make plays down the end to seal it out, and Keegan Kuhn gets a long run where we were able to punch it in and get to put essentially a 2-score deficit in between the two. That game really has a lot of meaning for a lot of reasons. But on a personal level, Coach, I know you probably don't want to talk about, but I'd be not doing my job if I didn't bring it up. 200 wins for you career-wise. That's a lot of wins. That's a lot of years of coaching, because you only get 10 in a season and maybe 13, 14, or 15. It's not like basketball where you get a 22-game schedule. 200 wins in the amount of time that you've been coaching says a lot.
Well, I think it says a lot for the environment that I'm in. I think it says a lot for the assistant coaches that I have and the players. The interesting thing is almost every player that texted me out. A lot of players text me and email me and tell me congratulations, and almost every one, in typical Pickle fashion, let me know how many of my 200 wins that they personally contributed to.
Right.
And so I thought that was neat and matter. And Jay Hem got me with even being a coach and a player both at the same time. Brett Mars got me with the fact he was a water boy at one point, and then got him. So there's a lot of unique stories. So it was a good night. I think everybody enjoyed it.
Hey, Coach, we've said this before, but again, I think it would be to say, it'd be important to say that all those wins come here at Piqua. You know, a lot of coaches that get 200 wins, there maybe 3 or 4 different schools. You've done it all right here at Piqua and seen a lot of great things and been around a lot of great coaches and players. I know you give them a lot of credit for that, but that's awful special to be in one place to do it.
It was, and it is, and we're very fortunate. We turned the corner, and you go down there, and the band's playing, and the cheerleaders had a sign, and I know the announcer at Tip City made an announcement, and there was just a lot of stuff whirling around at the same time. Somebody wanted a picture here, so it was a pretty furious little 12-minute session here today to get everything rolling.
12 minutes of glory until you get on the bus, and here we are.
Yep.
Week 10, and Coach, we've arrived at, we can talk about it now, what some may say is the greatest high school rivalry in the state of Ohio, Piqua and Troy, for the 131st time. We'll kick it off on Friday night at Troy. Before we get into the game, just this game in itself, it's special.
It is. It's big, it's special, it's all the things that are involved, because every time you talk to anybody about their high school career, everybody's got that rival. And it's kind of cool to have a really cool rivalry. Not one where they said, well, we can get 400 people here at our rivalry. This is one where you could get double digits if both teams are going well. It's one where everybody's attention is on it. It's one where even people that don't necessarily get involved in it. And it's big. It's a great opportunity for our kids on both sides to be able to do it. And every year that this game has a situation where both teams are relevant, and when I use that phrase relevant, I always mean both teams have something to be playing for. I think that's the other key that's important. It's good when people say, we'll throw away the records. It's this and this and this. And I think when you say throw away the records, that must mean you don't have a good record. You just want to throw it away. I think at this point, both squads have a lot to look forward to. They have a lot of relevancy, and they're both proud. We've stumbled probably a few more times than they have, but we're really proud so far of how we've gotten better over the course of the year. I think we're playing our best football right now. Like I said last week, we're as healthy as we've ever been. So I think those are going to be important things.
Coach, when you look at this game and you break it down, and we can talk about that here shortly, but this game in itself, the fact that for the 5th straight year in relevance, here we are with the opportunity. We've not talked about it on the show. We've not talked about it intentionally because it's week by week by week, but we can now talk about the fact that this week we have the opportunity to be playing for a conference title, have the opportunity to play for another trophy, which is the Battle of the Miami trophy between the two schools. And then the Great American Rivalry for the 11th year is coming, who showcases the top rivalries in the United States of America. They get a trophy. So for the 5th year, here we are with the opportunity to play for something special. And that, again, makes this program and being a Piqua Indian just a little bit different than some of the other places. Definitely.
And when you look at it, and one of the things you got to remind your players is there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of rewards, a lot of opportunities, a lot of this, but you can't overlook the hurdle. You can't look over and kind of look at that prize too soon, because there's still a hurdle over there. And they still got a hurdle, which is us, and one of us has got to knock down the hurdle to get to the prize.
Well, let's talk about that prize, and let's talk about the game, because everything that we just said can be distractions, because this week is a little bit different. There are more things going on this week. There's blood drives, there's rallies, there's things that the kids are not necessarily directly involved with, but they see it and they hear it because it's all around the game. But the game still must be played between the lines. Very, very good team. But you talk about keeping our eyes on what is important. What's the message you give them today at practice that says, hey, we've got a big game on Friday, and obviously we know what we're playing for. And the one thing we didn't mention is the spot in the playoffs, which is week 11. Those are all things that are, as you know, important. But all these other things can be distractions.
Yeah, and I found in my coaching career that sometimes playing and saying, okay, hey, now if you win this game, you're going to make the playoffs, or if you win this game, you're going to be a league champ. Sometimes I don't think that's necessarily the greatest motivator in the world. I think you have to be motivated from within just to go out and be able to beat this week's opponent. And you get your mind wandering a little bit, and you start thinking, well, who can we play in the playoffs? Who is this, and you forget, okay, now when Troy's H-back is here, this is this, or when they shift down to here, this is this. That's the stuff you have to make sure you're focusing on. And if you can do that, then that's where I think our minds have to be.
Well, Coach, I think too, you probably don't have to say too much about what's on the line because everybody knew because of the technology that's out there.
Yeah.
Not unlike before where it was you had to wait for the newspaper to come out to look and see.
You had to
where
wait for Tuesday to come out. Tuesday and see
now
the
you almost get
newspaper.
instant results where everyone's sitting around the computer at 11:30 to see what's on Joe Itel to see where you are.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at it, you know the kids are looking at it and it's in their ear. So you're to your point, they have got to know business has got to be taken on hand and they've got to come to practice ready to go, knowing that the school 10 miles down the road is doing the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's come down to this, for a while now, and we got to make sure that we get down there and get it taken care of. Last year it was a close game. I think last year special teams had a role in it. And so I think this year, once again, the turnovers, the big plays, big plays. It's just a constant in big football games. That's what it is. And then slip those special teams in there. It's like Friday night. Who would ever thought that probably the two most important plays, what I thought in the game, were their kickoff return and our punt team.
Yeah.
To have a group of kids line up there and have just 10 coming at them, from different angles. And Jarrell Lewis is our back guy back there, and he orchestrates the whole thing, and he was perfect. He did a great job orchestrating our protection.
Coach, let's talk a little bit about Troy, more specifically what we're going to see. They come off of a big loss. They were up late, and Zane kicks a late field goal with, I think, 20-some seconds to go to seal the win. So they're coming off the loss against a team that obviously we've seen a couple weeks ago. This team is very good. This team has a lot of weapons, both offensively and defensively. But what can the Piqua Indian fans see? What are they going to see from the 2019 Troy Trojans?
I think when you start with their offense, they have a massive offensive line, Xenia type offensive line. Their offense operates around their quarterback and their running back. They've got an H-back they use quite extensively, and those 8 people are in there, and they're shuffling, moving the scheme around and doing all the other business. In the meantime, they got 3 guys that are 2 by 1, 1 by 2. They do some Detroit, 2 on, 1 off, and use a little motion and things like that. But the bottom line out there is they'll send them deep, 3, 4, 5 times a game. And they'll work that boundary on you 3 or 4 or 5 times a game. So we've got this thing in the middle with the quarterback running back and forth, occasionally throw a jet pass. And in the meantime, they've got those receivers. So they got a well-balanced offense.
Defensively, talk a little bit about what.
Well, defensively, they're a multiple front. You sit down and you look at them, and I think they defend very well to formations. They put people in the right spot. They got 2 big guys, just like we do in the middle, that are really mobile, and the rest of the people are running around. They blitz very well, and they can cover down on some people on the backside.
When we talk every week about keys to wins, and I know you always talk about possessions and that, but if you were to say it this week, what are the keys for Piqua to win this football game?
I think we got to get some blow-up plays. I think we got to get some big plays, and I think we got to keep them, in the yard. We got to make sure that they're not getting those blow-up plays, and I think if we can do that, I think we'll have a very good chance to be able to be in the game in the fourth quarter, and we're pretty tough in the fourth quarter. And so if we can get things done at that point, I think our players, have a very good shot at getting it done.
When you look at our second half, Coach, and I say second half, I'm saying third and particularly the fourth quarter this year, particularly the second half of the season, we really have gotten a lot better. And I say that shows conditioning, both mentally, physically, but also it shows that we continue to just evolve and grow and get better as the game goes along.
I think we have. I think we've got our identity, and everybody wants to be. The guys on Sunday sometimes. Everybody wants to do that. But in high school football, you are who you are. And you want to try to be balanced, but you also, have to go in and say, okay, this is who we are. We're not ashamed of it. We're not trying to do, something different. And this is what we're good at. And you got to find what you're good at. And then you got to keep getting better at it. And then in the meantime, develop a couple other things, along the way to go with that. But you still got your basic thing. your basic beliefs. And when you go look at the good football teams, you can describe them. In other words, if you ask somebody, okay, what's Xenia like? Okay, so you could, if you've seen Xenia play, you can describe him. If you say, what's Troy like? You can describe him. If you say, what's Pickwood do? They know. They know what we're going to do. And so I think those teams, and there's certain teams you go, well, I don't know what they're going to do. Last week they did this week they did this thing, And so you got to have that identity, and I think we've developed that identity, and we'll see what happens.
The one thing I still marvel at this football team is being at our record at 5-4. There has been ups and downs. We have, you talked about, we're playing our best football. But that just doesn't just show our physical piece, just the fact that we are mentally tough enough and that we want to compete week in and week out and get better. Because there's a lot of teams right now, I'm seeing, and you're seeing it too, by the scores, they're cashing in. They're ready for the season to be over with. And we could have done that a couple of weeks ago easily. Yeah. But we have persisted, and now we're putting ourselves in a position, and you use the word relevant, we are relevant again, but this game is even a little bit more special than just because of the normal Pickwood-Troy game. It is relevant for everybody playing in that game.
It is, and I think that you got to give a lot of credit to the leaders of our football team. I think we've got, we've only got 7, 8 seniors this year, but we've got some juniors and we got some seniors that are leading. And not necessarily, the vocal, although that's important, more action, but we do have some very vocal people that are leaders on the team. And I think we've got an excellent coaching staff. And so when those tough times come, I'm not just up here blowing a bugle by myself. I got an orchestra with me. And there's some other people that are helping out in the cause and saying, "Hey, let's get your butts out on the field. Let's do this. Let's do this." And no one ever comes in here down. Okay? No one's ever allowed to come in here dragging butt. You come in here Monday, you're ready to go. We've already lifted, and that's the good thing I like about the fact that we can get our players lifted up. And so on Monday, they're ready to come in. We sit down, everybody's together. We have a Monday meeting. 15, 20 minutes, we discuss what happened last week, we discuss this week, any questions, any things schedule-wise, anything like that, get it all on the table and ready to go. And by the time the Monday meeting's over with, boom, we're hitting it.
Coach, the one thing that I did notice today as watching practice, we're practicing on grass. We're practicing on grass because Troy has a grass field. So watching practice just a little bit today, we always practice hard. There's never been a time where I walked in where I felt like we're just kind of going through the motions. But there is, today, you could tell there's a little bit of a pep in the step because it is Troy week.
Oh, it is, yeah. And we've got, the secondary was down there going against our receivers and some boundary routes. And, they were trying to simulate what Troy does and getting our DBs ready to roll. On the other side, we had our linemen, spirited one-on-one competition that we have every Monday, and that became bigger because we had about 15 or 20 of the freshmen with us today. So they now were able to compete and give some competition to the JVs, who normally don't have anybody to go against because they're usually our scout team.
Right.
So now they've got some competition brewing. So you look down at this end, and you had all the linemen going at it. You look down at that end with the receivers going at it, the special teams. So it was good practice today. Very good.
Well, Coach, we certainly wish you guys well as we roll into Friday and your preparations all week.
Thank you.
Before we do move into the second part of the show, let's talk a little bit about Zane Beougher, who is going to be the spotlight player over the Bill Neese's Coaches Show week 10. Zane, it's no secret, has had a challenging year because of injuries. But Zane's leadership, you can just tell he's been a player coach for you, and he's a guy that's put a lot of work and time into the off season.
He has, and it's very unfortunate because he had a great off season. He was one of our top lifters in the lift-a-thon. He was a great leader for us all through the off season into the summer. And then what luck that everything, or bad luck, everything gone through the whole thing, and then he gets hurt right as that 2-a-day part and that whole thing after you've worked so hard. And at first it was his hand, then he comes back, and then he had a knee, then he had a complication with the knee, and he tried to practice a couple times, just couldn't get it. So I would assume it would be totally frustrating, to put that much time in. Because I know as a coach, we put all that time in, and then if something doesn't go right, but on a personal level, to look forward to that senior year, and also be in all the meetings. He's in all the meetings. He's at all the practices. He does everything everybody else does. And to sit there and not be able to totally share in the wins, because you're sharing in it, but man, you don't have that dirty uniform.
Right.
And
You want to be the guy out there.
Yeah. And you feel bad for a situation like that, and hopefully that knee will get fixed and he'll be back, or he'll be back, getting that thing normal and be able to play baseball this year.
Well, the one thing I've noticed about Zane is maturity too. I've seen a maturity in him in terms of his leadership, not just on the field but in the hallways. And I think for somebody like that, that's also part of our jobs in education is to help kids make those moves. And you can see this year he really made some movement in that area in his life.
He did. He's up in the weight room, with everybody, every day working on the weights, doing the things he needs to do. And everybody, I think, to a man feels bad about the situation. He came in, tried to play a little bit at CJ, and you could just tell something was wrong. Something was bothering his knee, and then it went from, like I said, the hand to the knee. It's been just a tough year for him.
Well, he's made lemonade out of lemons, no doubt about it. But we certainly wish him well. We'll look forward to speaking with him. And Coach, again, good luck on the game on Friday night in Troy.
Thank you.
We will be back for the second half of the Bill Nieces Coaches Show, where we will talk with Zane Beougher, our Senior Spotlight Player of the Show. Welcome to the second half of the Bill Nieces Coaches Show. With us now is our player portion of the program, and we'd like to have our guest introduce himself, the grade he is in, and the positions that he plays.
My name is Zane Beougher. I am a senior and I play corner.
Zane, you are the last guest, the last senior that we have interviewed. Just a briefing in case the nation who have been watching this has been a challenging year for you. Been down with injuries, one with a hand and then your knee. You have played a little bit, but mostly been on the sidelines. I know it's been a frustrating year for you in that capacity. Talk a little bit about that in terms of the beginning and how it all started and then how that's been for you from a mental and emotion perspective.
It kind of all started in summer. I was squatting and it just kind of hurt a little bit, and I just kept practicing, didn't really think anything of it, and just got worse over time. And then finally got it checked out and they said it was fractured. I got it checked out again and they said that it's dislocated.
So how is that in terms of pain level, just day-to-day pain level, and how's that been?
It doesn't really hurt when I walk. It's just when I put a lot of pressure on it. So if I jump or run or sprint or anything, it'll hurt. But just normal day activities doesn't really bother it.
Not to belabor the point, but how has that been your senior year? I'm sure it's been very difficult to watch.
Yeah.
On the sidelines. I'm sure you see a lot of things differently now that you're on the sidelines than you were when you're playing, but how's that been from you as a player coach's perspective?
It kind of sucks because I want to be out there my senior year, but I'm able to coach the younger guys, help them fill in that spot. So
yeah, I noticed. I noticed on the other night, for example, at the Tip City game, I noticed you were engaging with the kids and getting them. When guys were coming off, giving them some insights and maybe some things that they didn't see. Is that, do you kind of see yourself in that role as a guy who's looking for things that you can give feedback on when they're getting off the field?
Yeah. I I know when they're playing, they can't really see it as well as I do because they're in the moment, but I'll see something, I'll try to help them out. Well,
speaking of helping out, you've helped your team along. They have won, the Indians we have won the last two against Greenville and then against a tough one at Tippecanoe. And here we are, week 10. We were talking about right before we put on the camera, putting all the chips on the table. Yeah. It's all for all the marbles, isn't it?
Yeah, if we win, there's a chance we'll make the playoffs, and then obviously bragging rights if we beat Troy.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about that game and from your perspective. You've been Piqua obviously your whole life, but what's this game mean to you, first of all?
It means a lot. I don't really know why. I just kind of grew up knowing that it was a big game, and I just wanted to win it. And I don't really know why I don't like them or why I want to beat them so bad. It's just kind of grew up like that.
Well, talk a little bit about also the community, what the game means to this community. As you can see that it means a great deal. between the two communities. It's a true rivalry that's not just known in the local area, but statewide. To be a part of it, that's got to be really special for you.
Yeah, it's everybody knows it or knows about it. Like,
It's pretty neat just to see it,
Yeah.
and just to run out and see that crowd
Yeah.
and the stands full.
Yeah.
It's got to pump the adrenaline.
yeah. I wish I could play in it, but
Well, I know one thing. You're going to be on the sideline doing as great job as all year as you have of getting in our kids' ears and getting them ready to go. And I know that you're going to help our team get a big W on Friday night.
I'll do my best.
Let's fast forward a little bit. A year from now, you'll be moving on. And what are some plans that you're thinking about as you're getting into the next level?
I've had some college visits for football, so I'm thinking about that, and then I just have to figure out what I want to do. or
Major-wise,
what
undecided?
Yeah, major in.
Okay. Well, I greatly appreciate the time you've given us, and we certainly wish you well, not just the rest of the season, but certainly in your career. Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, Zane. And that will conclude the Week 10 of the Bill and the Easters Coaches Show. Just a reminder, the 135th meeting between the Indians and the Trojans will be at Troy on Friday night, kickoff at 7 p.m. It will also be on Spectrum, Channel 1, so you want to check your local listings for times for that. As we said, this game has a lot riding on it. It will be a big one no matter what. Make sure you get your tickets in advance. There are tickets at Joe Toma's downtown for $5. Also pre-sale tickets at the high school for $5. They will be $8 at the gate, so make sure that you get your tickets in advance. You're not going to want to miss this one. For Zane, I'm Chip Hare. We will see you the next week on the Bill and Lisa's Coaches Show. Thank you very much for being here.